very, very significant. When Louise leaves the meeting with Rena, you know, more or less in a daze, like, what? Are you kidding me? And he had this thought, which, again, you could say I planted in his brain, but the thought was his egoic, it's clear indication of his egoic dilemma. Okay, because it's a dilemma. Because the ego can't imagine being so holy, being so good. That would be the ego's interpretation of a great spiritual teacher. It'd be a holy person. Somebody really, somebody really special, someone really great. The person. Well, that's the mistake, and that's the mistake that everybody makes. That's what causes all the problems. So the thought that I planted in Louis' brain, which was a very important thought, was, well, if someday I'm going to be so very good, first I need to be so very bad. And it was a really happy thought because Louis felt comfortable with the idea of being bad. It's like, it's easy. So here's the inertia that says, okay, you're going to go into the dark side first, which again, this is the Luciferic principle. It's really, really, really important that you understand the Luciferic principle. Going into the dark is actually the very thing that's going to release Louis from bondage so he can go to the light, so he can actually serve the light. But he needs to become very familiar with the dark, okay? This is something Louis talked about. He's, you know, the big brain. I'm not. In so many books that he was called to read, eventually finding out about transformation, and you know, Robert Johnson's book about that exact thing, about these three levels of consciousness, you know, represented by these literary figures, Don Quixote, the two-dimensional consciousness, the Hamlet, the tragic egoic mind, three-dimensional consciousness, and then Faust, who has the deep relationship with Mephistopheles, the devil, Lucifer, and that's what sets him free and allows him to become fully conscious. Okay, so this is key, just as key as it was for Louis to listen to me calling him to head west, to have this moment with Rena, an affirmation of his actual birth, what he was birthed for, that now he has to go on this dark journey because he needs to absolve. It's like a soul necessity. Remember I said there's these three aspects, 333, pay attention, 3, okay? Louis, the body and person, Louis' soul that needs to be absolved, cleansed, blessed, healed, whatever. The soul is what carries all of the karmic darkness, okay, from this lifetime, Louis' childhood, but past lifetimes, okay? I'll just throw in a little tidbit. It's really interesting that Louis, from the time he was very young, really had a very adverse relationship with money, banks, power, you know, sort of worldly power. And this is part of this process of development over lifetimes, okay? Because in the previous lifetime, Louis had been a member of the J.P. Morgan family. I'm not even sure if it matters what particular member of the family it was, but he was a male, I think. Well, I should say he's J.P. Morgan Jr. And very terrible karmic experience, okay? So Louis bringing this karmic information with him, obviously, his soul is carrying this karmic information from the past lifetime into this lifetime. So this sets him up in a very good way to become a servant, right? Because in the karmic thing, he was in love with his servant, his French nanny, and he was in love or loved his Chinese gardener. Okay, so he comes into this lifetime with a deep desire to find karmically, find the happiness that he saw in the servants, okay, the rich banking elite. These were not happy people. But he's looking for that. So in fact, in this lifetime, he will become that. He will actually become a servant. He was a chef chauffeur for an extremely wealthy matriarch in Minnesota. So anyway, it's important. I'll get to all this juicy stuff because it's so important to understand that Louis needed to go down, down, down. You know, again, he was born with a certain okay, so he was born with this memory of being a member of the elite. He has this keen antipathy for, in this lifetime, for the elite. Okay, this is why I say it's kind of a cosmic joke. His name that we gave him, the lifetime that we found for him, being born September 5th, being given the name Louis Bourgeois Jr., his father is Louis Bourgeois, okay, king of the middle class, okay. It's like we're dropping down, we're going from the Morgan elite to the bourgeois, you know, French peasantry. It's all orchestrated. And born on September 5th, so someday, this will be a story for later, Louis discovers in his research from the Beatles, this song, Here Comes the Sun King, and just curious, what is the Sun King referring to? And it's referring to Louis XIV, okay? Louis, the peasant, is from a long line of Louis. His father was Louis, his grandfather was Louis, but they kept changing the middle name from Edward to Henry, so there wouldn't be the third, fourth, fifth, sixth. But in Louis's case, the father doesn't change the middle name, so he's Louis Jr., Louis II. Born on the same day, September 5th, as Louis XIV. And this is just what would come to him as a little nugget, like, oh, I feel the resonance with the name Sun King. And so he takes the name Sun King at some time in his journey later in life. But it's fun to show you how from this level where I reside, representing eternity, where you see all the pieces, because there's no past, there's no future. In your world there is, but in my world there's not. So here's all the pieces, just like doop, 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 doop. Put them together. Here's how it's going to play out, and it's really fun. So what I encourage you to do, those who have ears to hear, is you have access to the same consciousness that I'm representing. You have your own version of Sun King, whatever that might be. It behooves you, if you're really truly on the path of mastery, that you seek ways to develop this relationship, seek ways to deepen this relationship with your own Sun King, your own Moon Princess, Sun Queen, whatever, boy, girl. It's just a representation. It's just like I say, a splinter of God, a splinter of eternity, okay, that we all have. We all have access. Louis had access, gained access. He, again, you'll see, I'll give you the whole story. You'll see the things, but the key, remember what I shared yesterday about the physical appearance of temptation becomes the spiritual recognition of salvation. By Louis following the voice of temptation, first I need to be really bad, and spending 10 years going down a very dark road, that was a necessary part of his development. Okay, you can't become whole. Okay, so really when he was seeing his holy self in the future and couldn't even imagine how he could possibly, someone as broken as he was as a person, how someone so broken could become holy. Well, it's a misunderstanding. Holy, what it actually means is whole. Whole is holy. Okay, Carl Jung, one of your great predecessors, in psychology, and he'd said that when interviewed, if he aspired to be a good man, he goes, no, I never aspired to be a good man. I aspired to be a whole man. Whole, mean embracing everything, accepting everything. Our humanity and our divinity are equally important, okay? I should say your, not our, your. Okay, really, really important that Louis was willing to follow the voice, but also willing to go into his own personal darkness. Get to that next time. Have a beautiful day. Sun King sends great blessings. It's all good. Remember, even what's going on in this world that seems like really, really crazy, this is you collectively going down that dark road, okay? This is what's happening, okay? So again, following the story of Louis can give you hope, not only for you individually, but for you as a collective, as a species. You're going down a very dark road. He said it'll take about 10 years. That was the prediction, okay, that came through Louis's mouth, coming from me, okay? About 10 years, very dark road, but always the light. The only way you can really go down the dark road is because you know that this light is actually guiding you. Okay, it's Lucifer. Lucifer is the light bearer, the way shower. Okay, so we need to allow at a very high level Lucifer to guide us through this dark journey that will come to the light. I promise you, this story has a really happy ending. Yeah. A really, you may not believe it, but it has a really happy ending. Bye-bye.